haunted military base that rests just to the southeast of the Wichita Mountains will be the subject. But first, I must tell you a short story of the war-torn, ravaged, and violent history of southwestern Oklahoma. Welcome to Shifting Veils. My name is Michelle.
And I am Isaiah.
And this is where we talk about things we find just outside of Clearview. So if you like the unexplained, possibly paranormal, and always strange, stick around as we explore the possibilities of what is beyond our natural senses. Camp Wichita, known to the local indigenous tribes as the Soldier House at Medicine Bluffs, is nestled in southwestern Oklahoma. It was founded by Major General Philip H. Sheridan in January 1869, and its original purpose was to protect border settlements in Kansas and Texas and non-hostile indigenous tribes from attacks by hostile indigenous tribes and roaming outlaws. You see, the soldiers at the fort were not only a military presence, but also the only law enforcement. There was cattle theft, farm burning, killing, and kidnapping, and while it was harsh and unforgiving, Sheridan was known to be just as brutal. He was a Civil War veteran and was the first U.S. commander to employ a scorched earth policy as a tactic of war.
And what's scorched earth?
You're basically disabling the invading enemy. Like you're destroying water supply, food supply. I think in modern times you'd be like trying to destroy like infrastructure, like communications. I don't know how they do that then. I mean, how they would destroy the communication line, because basically you were just like running telegraph from.
They break the horse's legs.
Right? Yeah. They steal the horses. Kill the horses. I don't know, really brutal things, but basically you're disabling the invading enemy. So it just makes it harder for the invading enemy to do what they do.
Okay.
Sheridan's 6 cavalry regiments were guided by Scouts Buffalo Bill Cody, Wild Bill Hickok, and Jack Stillwell.
I'm glad you said Buffalo Bill Cody, because if you just said Buffalo Bill,
I know, which one are we talking about? Right? There's so many. I would have been confused.
Plus I have the lotion on the skin.
The 10th Cavalry of Buffalo soldiers built most of the original stone buildings that still surround the original Old Post quadrangle today. In July of the same year, the provisional name Camp Wichita would be changed to Fort Sill in honor of Sheridan's classmate, Brigadier General Joshua W. Sill, who gave up his life in battle during the Civil War. When President Ulysses S. Grant approved a policy that was intended to bring peace between the indigenous people and the United States, the hostile raids resumed. The policy placed the territory under the authority of Quaker Indian agents and restricted the authority of the soldiers based at Fort Sill. They were now forbidden to take any kind of punitive action against the local natives who they were charged originally with policing. The local chiefs construed this as a sign of weakness and began exploiting it. In 1871, General Sherman arrived at Fort Sill. By June of 1874, the Kiowa, Comanche, and Southern Cheyenne were stirred to full and total war. The United States Army retaliated with the Red River Campaign in an effort to gain control. In a year's time, the mission would conclude with the final relocation of the Southern Plains indigenous people to reservations. The Comanche, led by Chief Kawana Parker, were the last holdouts of the struggle. In June of 1875, they surrendered at the fort's quartermaster corral. Although an end to the war between the Southern Plains indigenous people had occurred, it was not the last of the conflicts to be had between the soldiers of the fort and the local tribes. In the 1890s, there was a bloody uprising known as the Ghost Dance Uprising. In 1894, Geronimo and over 300 other Apache warriors were transported to Fort Sill. They were given plots of land, grew small crops, raised cattle, and taught skills like construction. Contrary to popular belief, Geronimo was only briefly locked in the post jail on a few occasions for having too much of a good time or public drunkenness. He was otherwise treated really well, which that's really opposite of what I grew up learning.
Yeah.
I was taught that he was pretty much just locked up, and I mean I've been to his cell,
Hmm.
and well, the cell that they put him in, and when you look in there, there's like a path, like it's a stone floor, and it looks like there is a path worn out in that stone, and they say that it's from him pacing, but if that's from pacing, it wasn't done by Geronimo. He was hardly locked up, and when he was, like I said, it was because he was publicly drunk. He just had too much of a good time. He enjoyed himself quite a bit.
That's what us natives do.
He was treated really well. I mean, they were actually pretty kind to him. Uh, so
Well,
I don't know.
so I mean, this is the thing though. Is like this is what we try and explain now. Is like just because you have a bad apple, it doesn't make all the apples bad, right? I mean,
Right.
just because one person of a certain skin color is a certain way doesn't mean they all are. That's
True.
the thing. So I mean, just because a lot of indigenous people and tribes have had issues and problems with, what
Yeah.
colonists,
Hmm.
I guess, doesn't mean that all colonists were bad people. There was a lot of good interactions that happened.
I
So
would
I
go
mean,
so far as to say he was really well respected there, to be honest.
yeah, I mean,
From
I
everything
believe
I've
it.
I mean, that's not what I was taught in high school.
Hmm.
Um, but looking at other things since then, and it's been a while. um, it just seems like he was really well respected and treated well. Um, he died in 1909 of pneumonia, and he is buried on the post with his two wives.
Damn.
Yeah. Today, Fort Sill serves as the home of the Field Infantry School, several Army aviation schools, and the headquarters of the Army Field Artillery, and is known for its haunted reputation. Me telling you all of this is just to say how very rich in history this location is, with a lingering imprint of those that came, went, and died on that land undoubtedly left behind. Fort Sill is no stranger to the ethereal voices from beyond, the eerie feelings of unseen company, images of shadowy figures, and unexplained encounters. There are several first-hand accounts from soldiers and their families living on the base. So, let's get into some of these stories.
In October of 2021, one lieutenant colonel pinned his personal accounts in an article posted for the general public. He starts off by saying that he has always been skeptical of ghosts and ghost stories, and still is, but admits there are far more things in this world that he cannot explain than things he can. He then follows with, "This account is 100% true. To the best of my recollection, it happened some 18 years ago, and not embellished in any way. It occurred in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, when I was a young lieutenant living in Academic Heights. Out of consideration to the young families who live in the quarters now, I will not share the exact address where this phenomena occurred. The encounter happened around 6 months after we moved into our place. My family left the day prior for a long weekend trip to Grandma and Grandpa's house. Our faithful beagle, Ulysses, and I were the only two living souls in the house, and had settled into bed around 10:30 p.m. It was a cool fall night. All the windows were shut and the bedroom door was completely closed, as is my routine when I go to bed. If you've never been in Academic Heights, they were erected in the mid 20th century when buildings were made to last. At that time, all of the exterior and interior doors were made of solid wood, making them extremely heavy. The knobs and the knobs and latches were all brass, and they looked original from the time the building was made. I was reading for around 20 minutes, and Ulysses was curled up in his usual spot at the foot of the bed, sleeping. Out of nowhere, Ulysses jolted awake and started growling at the door. The hair on his back was standing straight up, and his gaze laser focused on the door. He was growling and showing his teeth, posed as mean looking as I'd have ever seen him. I hadn't heard any noises, as we occasionally did living in a fourplex, And anyway, Ulysses was used to those sounds. This was different. He was scared. In an attempt to calm him down and keep him from disturbing our neighbors, I reached down to pet him. When I touched his back leg, he startled and then looked at me, then back at the door, then back at me. In a can't you see it kind of way. Maybe 10 or 15 seconds elapsed with us locked in that tense cycle. Ulysses could not be comforted or deterred from growling intensely at the door. Just as I was beginning to wonder if I had locked both doors, I heard the latch click and watched the doorknob turn. Then the door between the bedroom and the hallway swung open to about 45-degree angle. That was enough for Ulysses. He lost it. In an instant, all of his bravado vanished as he leapt off the opposite side of the bed to hide underneath.
I'm with the dog. I would have dove under the bed with
You have a blanket right there.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I instinctively reached for a small aluminum bat I kept by the side of the bed and started yelling at whoever or whatever had just opened my door.
Wait a minute. What is the blanket supposed to do, sir?
You pull it up over your head. Obviously, we've talked
N-
about this. It's a full protection cover.
it's not a cloaking device, but
It protects you. I didn't say it cloaked you.
no, okay.
You think they couldn't see you under the bed?
No, but yeah, okay.
Over the next 30 minutes, I checked and rechecked the entire apartment, turning on all the lights and triple checking the door locks. I could not find any evidence that anyone else had been in the house. When I felt safe again, and after my heart stopped racing, logic took over and I tried for the next hour to replicate the door going from being latched shut to opening, to no avail. Something wanted in or out of my room or wanted me to know it was there. Because my kids were little, I did not tell them what happened so that they wouldn't be scared. I told my wife, but I'm not sure she totally believed me. We lived in those quarters for another few years, but neither Ulysses nor I ever saw or heard anything we could not explain again.
Yeah. Mm-mm. No. I would have had to dive under the bed with the dog, and maybe they couldn't see me, but at least I'd be with my dog. I
That's a solid point there.
mean, he probably wanted company anyway.
Well, the thing is that our dogs and cats know better, so follow the cats or dogs.
See, you just said it. He knew better. He knew
Hmm.
the blanket doesn't work.
The
That
dog
only
doesn't have thumbs to pull the blanket over his head.
You've never seen a dog grab a blanket with their mouth and pull it over them?
He didn't have time to do that. He was probably sitting on the blanket itself. The lieutenant colonel.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I could. Well, I mean, he probably had to stay there. I mean, he was stationed there, so I don't know. I don't know. That's freaky.
I mean, I know that you and I experienced stuff like this, but I mean,
Yeah.
considering if like if this is you being a skeptic and this is your first time like kind of experiencing something like this, how would you react? Because you're seeing your dog freak out, you're noticing this. Are you just going to be like, all right, my dog's just having a nervous breakdown?
My response probably would have been like his. I mean, and I sit there and say, "Oh, I couldn't live there another couple of years." When I've experienced stuff in homes before that I continued to live in, because that's where you're living. You gonna pack up because your door flew open? I'd like to think I would, but I didn't. you know.
I'm gonna
um,
say this too, like because it bugs me. It kind because it just makes me think of this. It bugs me whenever it comes to like people telling scary stories or like recounting accounts of scary stuff happening in houses,
mhm.
such as Amityville or Poltergeist or anything like that. Where people are like, "Why didn't they just up and move? Why didn't they move?" It's like, do you know how much it is to move to a new house or to a new
Yeah.
apartment or like
Mhm.
even load up your car? Like, you don't or even breaking a contract if you got a lease or at an apartment building. Do you know how much that costs to just break a lease? No, you
It's
can't
not
just up and
just
move.
the financial burden, it's a lot of effort. And man, I hate effort.
Dude.
It's a lot of work.
I mean, aside from that's why I said, you got the moving van too, because God, I hate moving.
Yeah. Yeah, if I ever move again, which I probably will, I don't want to think about it. I'm hiring somebody to move me because I just it's not fun. It stinks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the main reason why I never wanted to buy a pickup ever in my life because then you become the friend that helps everybody
Yeah.
move. And what do you do whenever you have to move? You're like, oh, what's so and so doing? And then that so and so is the one person you know that's got a big pickup truck.
Oh, you know what? I got a flat tire. Sucks.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. Another soldier says, I went to basic training in January of 2017 in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We had 50 people in our platoon, and each night about 10 of us had fire guard, two to a shift, where you're up for an hour and clean the living quarters. One person cleaned while the other manned the desk by the entrance. The second week or so, I was cleaning the latrine by myself while my partner was in the other room. I would always get these weird feelings as if someone was watching me. I was walking towards the little closet in the latrine that held the brooms and mops, and as I approached, the light in the closet turned on. It was activated by a switch, not a motion sensor. It freaked me out, and I stood there for a second, frozen. Then I ran in there, I put the mop away, and ran out of the latrine. The next few times I cleaned the latrine by myself, I still got strange feelings, but the task had to be done. Around week 4, where everyone starts to really know each other, and you know all 50 of these people's names by heart, word got around that other people were experiencing things too. One guy said while he was roaming the halls at night, he saw a shadowy figure walk out of the latrine and towards him and then evaporate.
Hmm.
Another person said he heard noises on the other side of the latrine while he was cleaning it. The worst story I heard was this guy named Hunt. He slept right next to the latrine door. He said he woke up to see a dark figure hovering above his bed, and he screamed like a little girl. I would too. He said it happened a few times after that, and he was losing his mind. He once needed to use the latrine after hours and was too afraid to go in to turn the lights on.
Yeah.
The scariest moment was during the daytime when me and my buddy were taking a latrine break. We both ran inside the latrine, and right as we flipped the light switch on, I saw a 6 foot tall black figure standing there, and it evaporated as the light came on. He saw it too, and it was the scariest moment I'd had. Around week 9 or 10, the final week, the drill sergeants began to talk to you like a normal human being. We had a Q&A and someone asked about the haunted living area. The drill sergeant, she said something among the lines of, "You're not the first platoon to talk about this shit. I personally think there's a portal in here. People have killed themselves here for a long time, and I think they stick around. But fuck it. I'm not the one who lives here, so I don't mind." That's really nice of the drill
That's
sergeant.
I thought they said they treated you like an actual human being.
Right. Yeah, they do. And then I let you know they don't give a shit about it. The last few nights sleeping there were tough. Some people might not believe my story, but I felt someone would appreciate it. Probably anyone else that's like experienced that stuff.
I mean, a lot of
Um,
people probably holding hands while they're using the restroom there, huh?
oh my gosh. Yeah. I wonder how many people started pissing in bottles just so they didn't have to go to the latrine.
Yeah.
Probably a lot. Don't
They
act
said
like
that
you wouldn't.
that I mean, I'm able to aim into a bottle, so I mean, yeah, I
Of
wouldn't mind.
course, yeah. I don't know about the ladies. Feel sorry for
Right.
them, but
I was gonna ask that. This says the drill sergeant was a she.
uh huh.
Is this a story from? Is this a woman's latrine, or is this a men's latrine, or is it a co-latrine?
Um,
It says he once needed to use the latrine after hours, so I guess it's men with a
This is
female drill
men.
sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah, these are these story the two stories or the stories I told just now. That was a man.
These guys definitely were holding hands while standing at the urinals.
Probably.
I would.
Or asking if someone had an empty bottle.
Don't let the shadow take me, please.
Yeah, so you've got a couple of accounts of like shadow figures basically in
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, that's crazy. Spooky. I've been in the
Shadowy figures.
barracks. I mean, I haven't been in all of the living quarters. I mean, over there, but I have been in the barracks.
Do you
Um
remember seeing any shadowy figures while there?
I don't. I wasn't there for very long. Um and it feels odd. It feels old, and eerie, but I didn't see anything. But I didn't spend a lot of time there either. So,
Hmm. All right. Our third story to share says, I've been working civil service at Fort Sill since late 1999, almost 25 years, and have never seen anything like this before. I am a smoker, so when I take smoke breaks, I have to walk across the street to a small park. It's a vacant lot with a few trees. Last Thursday, I'd gone out for a smoke break at around 10 a.m., and as I was having my cigarette and looking at news on my phone, I noticed in my peripheral vision to the right a black man in a cowboy hat walking through the field. I see people walking across that field occasionally, so at first I didn't think much of it. However, I looked up and noticed that his corporal stripes were upside down and much larger than on modern uniforms. He was about my height, 5'8", and had a light beard as if he hadn't shaved in a week or so. It then occurred to me that he was dressed in a Civil War style uniform, and I thought, oh, cool, it's Civil War reenactor. Maybe they are having some sort of historical reenactment nearby. So I immediately thought to take a photo of the man. I switched my phone to camera mode and went to take a photo, but the man had completely vanished. Mind you, he was 50 feet or less away from me the last I saw him, and that is a wide open field we were in, so there is absolutely no way that he could have run out of sight that quickly. It puzzled me all day. I was trying to justify in my mind what I had seen, and I could not. I have never been much of a believer in the paranormal, but I have no other explanation other than I believe I saw a full bodied apparition of a buffalo soldier in broad daylight, even though it was overcast that day. He looked like a real solid person, not translucent or see through like you see in movies. I did some research and discovered that Buffalo soldiers, black soldiers that served from the late 1860s up until World War II, had built the original buildings at Fort Sill in 1869 to 1870, such as the old post quadrangle, officers' quarters, the original hospital, and livery stables. Livery stables. Many of these soldiers are buried in the Fort Sill Post Cemetery.
you want to tell another one?
Yeah, all right. So this one says at Fort Sill, we weren't allowed in the attic of the barracks, but had guys living on the floor right below it. Well, seeing as how we're fucking retarded, we wanted to see what was up there. We opened the door that leads to the stairwell up, and it's pure darkness up there. I take a picture, and at the very top there was an apparition clear as day. We were able to make out shoulders and a head. We never opened that door again. I wish I still had the picture as evidence, but I wouldn't make any of this shit up. Other story, same barracks, in the barracks furthest from the OC, deck F, I think. I was roaming fire watch for both the first and second deck. The top deck was empty at the time, and all the doors were propped open with bricks. As I walked down the empty building, it felt weird. I hated going up to the second deck. After a few trips up there, as I walked by one of the doors, it slammed shut like someone threw it closed. Windows were not open. It was propped with a brick. Definitely wasn't a draft. I told whatever was there out loud that I was leaving and didn't look back. A couple nights later, a new guy that just showed up came to us at 2 a.m., wide-eyed, saying he just saw a lady in a white gown in the hallway. I believed every word. That place is fucking weird.
I wonder who the lady was. And why
You
are they
know,
always wearing white?
I was gonna say it's not the only white gowned lady that's ever been reported as a paranormal
Right.
specter.
Yeah. No, it's odd though. Why is it
Maybe
always a lady in white?
I was gonna say maybe that's something we should research. Lady in white gown.
Maybe. Um, in late December of 1980, a contractor had set up a computer room in the basement of Building 463, which was formerly part of the Old Cavalry Post Hospital and is now the building that houses the Garrison Conference Room behind Taylor Hall. Because of the expense of computer time, it was decided to have a night shift start at 4 p.m. The night shift consisted of one man and three women. According to the workers, on the first night of the shift, they realized something strange seemed to be happening on the floors above. At first, they thought there were other people somewhere in the building because they heard footsteps up and down the deserted halls. At other times, voices could be heard, but they were very far away and couldn't be understood. One night, one of the ladies and the man decided to see who else was in the building that late. When they said they heard the walking on the floor above, they rushed up the stairs to find an empty hall. One of them asked who was there, and the reply was dead silence. All four workers were now convinced the building was haunted, and it was agreed that no one would leave the computer room without another person.
The buddy system.
Yeah. At first, it was like a game, and a lot of jokes were made about the unexplained noises, but the joking soon ended because the unseen visitors seemed to be getting closer to the computer room on his nightly walks. At times, it seemed as though the spirit was on the other side of the computer door. According to the employees, one of the witnesses reported you could just feel it was there. The male worker moved to the day shift, leaving a woman who replaced him and three others on the night shift. It was learned at this time the computer room used to be a morgue.
Who
The,
decided to make a computer room into a morgue?
the
Or a
hunt.
morgue into a computer room, sorry.
The hunting seemed to get worse. On three different occasions between that December and March of 1981, the military police were called to search the building for intruders. On one occasion, police dogs were let loose in the building. They found nothing. One night, the four women were so disturbed by the weird activity they ran outside. They were too afraid to go back in, so they locked up and went home. It was not long after that that the women were placed on the day shift. Can't blame
Yeah.
them. And screw that guy that like transferred to day shift and just
Yes,
left them.
seriously. Like the the ladies are sticking it out. You can't stick it out. Come on,
Oh
dude.
my god, really?
Oh my
Jeez.
god. No, but what I was trying to say was who decided to turn a morgue into a computer room and how did they do that? Because I imagine a morgue doesn't have all this like right plugs and stuff in it. I don't know.
I don't even
That
know.
sounds stupid.
So I guess they carpeted over the drain in the floor. I'm assuming there's a drain in the floor. I've
Ooh.
never, I
Yeah,
mean, wouldn't there be?
they
Just in
probably just
case.
cemented that shit up, yeah.
I mean, I'm just assuming now. I've never been in a morgue. I'm just
Well,
assuming for easy cleanup, it'd be one of those places that has a drain in the floor.
I mean, the morgue is usually where they hold the bodies. It's not necessarily where they
Oh,
do like
you're right.
the all the stuff to prepare a body.
You're right.
All right. Many houses and buildings on post are said to be haunted. Stories pass from neighbor to neighbor. Doors open and close when no one is around. Objects fall off shelves or get thrown, usually harmless and without much more than a good startle. But not for one family, no. In their case, the haunting became more than pranks and moving objects. It became frightening. The incidents began the day Brittany Button settled in the house with the help of her mother. My mom and I moved all my stuff in here. My husband was deployed, and we made the bed, laid down the sheets, and we saw footsteps across the covers like a cat. At night time, I would hear it purring next to my head, said Button. It would lay at my feet. I could feel it kneading my legs. Button learned to accept this ghost cat and grew accustomed to sharing her new house. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I have questions. I would have questions.
Soon, other unexplained events began to occur. Things she couldn't brush off as being just a lost, lonely cat. The pranks started innocently enough. It would keep opening and closing the bathroom door. I would shut it, feel it click, turn around, and then I would hear it open. I would shut it, and it would open. So I yelled at it to stop, she said. I heard it laugh. Even my neighbor heard it laugh. Then he slammed the door in my face. Later, my neighbor asked me if I'd been babysitting a little boy that night. She said it was one thing for the spirit to mess with her, but then it began to pull pranks on her daughters. Moving objects, chairs sliding across the room were one thing, but these pranks soon became mean. During dinner one night, Button's daughter was sitting at her little table in her child sized chair. Button looked over just in time to see the chair go flying out from under her daughter and land across the room. Thankfully, her daughter was not injured. Other times, her younger daughter will play with someone that is not there. You'll watch her, she'll be laughing and giggling like someone is playing with her, and all of a sudden, she'll be pushed, like someone pushes her into the wall, said Button. Both her daughters have said they see the boy. The boy. Ugh. Button made the decision to move due to many factors, but she knew she was making the right choice after a particularly unnerving incident on one evening while she was packing. I had dropped some papers and they slid under my bed. I was in the midst of packing, so I didn't stop to pick them all up. I got to the edge of my bed and I heard what was like a piece of paper being crumpled. I looked down, and it was like something was trying to scramble over the paper toward my feet, Button said. So I jumped backward, and the bed skirt flipped up. I hauled out of my room. I could hear footsteps chasing me. I grabbed the kids and ran out of the house until my friend arrived to check the house.
Nope. That's when I hire the moving company.
That's when we do fraud. We burn the house down.
Well, it's easy to try and dismiss a story told by one family. Button's story is far from unique. Amy Rivas was a former resident on post. She also experienced activity that couldn't be explained away by the mundane. At first, we didn't notice anything, but after a while, it was the little things, Rivas said. Doors would open and close by themselves, diaper wipe containers would fly across the room, and our dog would stare for hours at a corner in our newborn's room. See, people talk about this stuff being like small, no big deal before it like gets quote unquote frightening. That shit right there is frightening to me.
When your pet stares into a corner?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, that was scary. I've experienced that. That's not like nothing.
No. Now, when your pet's staring up at the ceiling corner, that
Uh-huh.
that really freaks me out. That right there does it like no.
Yeah, even after these incidents became more frequent, Rivas would try to ignore it. My 4-year-old started complaining he was scared of a shadow man. He would refuse to stay in his room, she said. One night after I put him to bed, I saw a little child running through the house as I was in the kitchen. I thought it was my son, but when I went to find him, he was sleeping soundly and snoring. No,
Mm-mm.
we're loading up in the car and going to a hotel.
Children ghosts are the worst.
The little shits.
It's little shits, that's right.
The activity worsened when Rivas experienced something pulling on her ponytail as she folded laundry one day. That's when I really started to freak out because it seemed like the activity was getting worse and less able to blame on non-paranormal. What could you How was she blaming it on non-paranormal things before? I
I
don't
mean,
understand. Uh,
okay, you and I have talked about this before. Maybe there was like a ton of stress, maybe a lack of sleep. There was, sort of sleep deprivation. Maybe
we
there's
gaslight
medications.
ourselves so much. What the heck? The
I mean,
Kleenex box just flew across the living room. It must have been the wind, even
you
though
know
the
what?
windows aren't open. You're right.
I'm tired. I am tired.
I'm tired. The Kleenex box flies across the room every time. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Oh my.
The baby did it.
Uh huh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Many, many, many more stories like this about Fort Sill can be found if you look for them online. I mean, I'm sure that's all over Reddit, and I think there's even some like military published articles, like firsthand accounts from soldiers and stuff. Which is, I mean, pretty much what these ones that we've been sharing
Yeah,
have
it sounds like
been. They're soldiers and soldiers' families, so you
I was gonna say
know.
it sounded like there was a lot of them that were just stationed there.
Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I live near Fort Sill. I mean, 35-minute drive, and I'm there. I know a lot of people that did basic training there. I know people that lived there. Um, yeah, I've been there. I'm not in the military, so I didn't serve there, but I've been there. And the wildlife refuge over there. Some of the some of the training there with Fort Sill is done on the refuge. Some of it is you can't get on it without access like to the base.
I was gonna ask
Um,
if it's still used as a station.
yes, yeah. In Medicine Bluffs, that portion of the refuge that's actually on Fort Sill land. But it talks about it being artillery, field artillery and stuff. That's where I mean, I hear that shit all day long. It sounds like distant thunder. Sometimes it's louder than that. There's a constant rumbling and booming and stuff because they're doing field artillery exercises out there near the refuge
No.
and on the refuge. Um, Medicine Bluffs is part of it, and um, I mean that's a it's wild because Medicine Bluffs is a sacred place, considered a
Hmm.
sacred place
Right.
with the indigenous that are native to this area, and I think it was the Comanche. So I think that's mostly what's over in Lawton. We have an Indian hospital over there, and I think it's mostly Comanche and maybe Kiowa. I'm not sure, but I know they don't like me over there. I'm the wrong tribe. That's all I know. I've been to that hospital. They don't like me. I'm not Comanche. I'm the wrong one. Um, but yeah, it's I've been there, so I've heard a lot of stories personally. But um, I do have a link to include. We'll put it in our description. It'll take you to another published author's blog that has a write up on Fort Sill. Um, and there's lots of other spooky and historical subjects included on this blog, but the particular link takes you to the one of Fort Sill, and there's a lot more history included, and some different stories if you want to check it out. I think we're at the end of our stories.
As if you have any of your own, please send us an email. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and follow, and tell your closest relatives and friends about the podcast.
We love hearing from you guys. We appreciate all of your support. Be watching our TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook account this week to find out what our next episode will be. So until next time, leave a light on and keep those curtains closed.